Don Mooers, and welcome to Montgomery Week in Review. There's been tremendous controversy about many of the newly appointed cabinet members of the Trump administration, none more so than the Secretary of Education, Fred Evans, who comments on this program on a regular basis, has a long history in MCPS, our Montgomery County school system, is here to comment. MCAEL, the Montgomery Coalition for Adult English Literacy, is a network of providers who aid people who want to master the complicated task of learning English. Kathy Stevens, Executive Director of this great organization, is here to explain the programs that it runs, which remain essential in the fabric of our county. What does the Board of Elections have to do? What's their job when there's no election, especially this year in 2017? Well, there's a lot, apparently. Alysoun McLaughlin is here to tell us all about the activities of our Board of Elections. The Jewish Foundation for Group Homes enables adults with developmental disabilities in our community to live independent and, I hope, rich lives. Scot Marken, the relatively new CEO of this organization, has the details. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow is right.
50-50 vote, broken the tie by the vice president
First time ever.
Betsy DeVos.
Right.
So what's going on, Fred? Why is there so much controversy?
Well, I think I've been on the show before, and folks know I was an educator. I was still an educator for many years. And I think one of the most important things for someone who's been on the ground, so to speak, in schools is any leader of an educational organization, we would like them to have had the experience of education, especially public education.
Whoa. Didn't she go to school?
I'm not sure of that, but I know it wasn't public school.
All right.
And one of the questions, and I don't want to make fun because this is very serious, she has been a strong advocate for voucher systems. She has been a very strong advocate for charter schools, and also she was in an organization on Council for National Policy. I just found this out. There are three major points where they wanted to do away with the Department of Education. They wanted to bring God, literally, this is true, God back into the public school discussion. And there was one other point which I
So are we going to see vouchers in charter schools?
Well, that's the important
next
question.
Month, or?
That's the important question in terms of when she starts to work with the people who were at the Department of Education. Where does she go? Her first meeting at a school was set up by there was a protest in a school in D.C. And that's what I worry about. I really wanted to talk today not about Betsy DeVos, but about what schools need.
Before we get to that, I think it's important to understand what role the federal Department of Education plays in our education system. Because as I would look at it, and especially coming out of, I think, the rhetoric in this election, too, is trying to get everything localized. States and counties, towns should be making education decisions. So it's sort of an anomaly, I think, for this administration to even think that there needs to be a Department of Education at the federal level. Comment on that.
Well, the first Department of Education was led by Lamar Alexander, who's now in the
before it used to be part of HEW.
That's correct.
Health, Education, and Welfare.
Correct.
They split it off by President Carter.
That's right. It set up its own department. No Child Left Behind. I don't want to review all that. So the federal role has become much more pronounced, and in a positive way too, because we had very significant laws like Public Law 94-142, which guaranteed the right of appropriate education for those who had handicapping conditions. We had Title IX, which demanded equity for women in sports initially. And then a third one I'll mention is Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1974, which required that buildings, facilities become accessible to handicapped.
So the positive parts of this on the federal level have been very good.
I think,
So is she going to gut them?
No, that's going to be the question, and how she works with the various states, because the role of public education is still a state process. So that the state superintendent of Maryland, state superintendent of New York, they are still running their various institutions.
So, Fred, when you talked about the laws for special ed education, one of the challenges during the confirmation hearings was the belief that she didn't understand very much about the laws that currently exist. And so there's definitely a lot of fear among the disability community related to what does that mean for special ed services. And here in Montgomery County, we're known for having very strong special ed services. So have you thought about how this comes down potentially to us at the local level?
I think the local level is going to have to be firm if they get any mandates that lessen those appropriate laws, that they push back, and you're seeing that with different laws, especially the one on immigration. But I don't want to get into that right now.
Whole nother issue.
The concern is leadership. And does she understand what it takes to run a good school? That's one of the things I want to get in today. And how is she going to assure that our, 13,000 school systems we have in this country are getting all the services and needs met that they need, and from a federal perspective anyway.
We've got about a minute left, which we could talk about this all day.
Oh my goodness, yes.
But for you, I guess with the Secretary of Education, how much damage can the Secretary of Education do? I mean, because
I think that's a great question. I think that will depend on, first of all, what she attempts to do, and that's not clear because you're correct, she didn't have a plan.
Right.
And then secondly, the officials who are in the Department of Education right now,
the professionals,
what kind of influence are they going to have on her to have her back down and then move forward with positive plans? Because we have issues, there is no question. The disparity between those who perform and those who do not, the achievement gap is still there,
right,
and it needs to be addressed.
But as you said, organizations used to be with, maybe we've been missing God. And we'll leave it on that one. I think it's going to be tough. I think coming ahead, and I hope you'll be coming back on a regular basis, because that whole church and state separation in our schools is something that is going to be very interesting in the years ahead.
It is going to be interesting, very interesting.
Thanks, Fred.
Thank you.
All right. Kathy Stevens.
Hi.
So adult education literacy, maybe we could do real quick, because there's so much we want to talk about in this such a short segment. But I think a lot of folks who understand or know of your organization, Montgomery Coalition for Adult Education, Adult English Literacy, think of you as an organization doing a lot of direct services, but you're really the coalition. You're the umbrella trying to make sure that all these organizations are doing great things. So maybe you can help us with understanding.
We're a backbone organization, and we support about 70 programs here in the county that serve about 15,000 adults each year. And just to put that in context, we have, according to census data from 2015, we have 130,000 adults who are in need of some sort of English class. So that says that we still have a big gap to close, which we're working on. Unlike public school systems, adult education is not really organized in any one particular department. There's not a public system for it. So the programs that teach might be housed in social service agencies, might be housed at local community colleges, might be housed in faith-based organizations around the community.
Did you go around? I know Montgomery College took on a lot of this
They do a lot of, yes, indeed.
MCAEL
They're
years ago,
considered one of our coalition network members, yes.
But one of the questions I have, and I get so tired of this, I don't know if you know, I'm an immigration attorney and I'm dealing with foreign nationals, saw the same clients, but I'm so tired of this statement I hear over and over again still. Well, if they would just learn English, if they just wanted to learn English, and I think back in our whole history where in the, it's the generation that comes in and speaking language, especially if they're in areas where they can speak the language of their homeland. But Montgomery County, we're so dispersed in many ways. But the lines, I tell people, look, we can't, as you just said,
we can't serve everyone who wants to take a class.
Everybody wants to learn.
Right. It is, the challenge is time, really. As for most of us, not enough hours in the day. Takes on average 7 years to become proficient in English, and a typical adult who's taking our classes might be working 2 jobs, caring for family, commuting. We all know how many things this takes. So one of the things we're looking at to get our services to more people are workplace-based classes. We're about to do some piloting this spring. People can't always get to the community classes. We have a great set of programs. They have waiting lists, but there's still folks who just simply don't have time in the day to get there. So we're piloting with some healthcare organizations because they know that their healthcare frontline workers need help with English, and the employers, I really have to take my hat off to them, are saying, hey, this is important for the way we do business, our client satisfaction.
We
wanna
talked
teach
about
some
this, I think
classes.
I mentioned this to you, I think, many years ago, about Bethesda and
Yes.
going to law firm. And
Right.
because because during the day, people are working Bethesda,
Yep.
working in the different urban areas especially. They might have lunch times where they can do it, but the weekends, the nights,
That's
it's almost
not
impossible.
convenient.
But
We face
Absolutely.
these needs a lot at the Board of Elections, and people
Right.
have this perception, well, don't you need to speak English at a certain level in order to become a citizen? Well, not necessarily, but
Right.
in many cases what we'll find is that voters really want to communicate with their ballot, cast
Right,
their
they
ballot
wanna
in English,
understand,
and then they get to
absolutely.
the ballot questions.
Yes.
And the ballot questions
Which are hard for
require-
any of us to
right.
understand.
Very
Right.
difficult.
I don't understand.
I think the key for us is there, and right now, English literacy is one of the most basic keys to success in a community. So for people who want to reach out and help the immigrant community right now, English literacy is one of those. Contact
Volunteer.
us. And I think we've seen a huge uptick in registrations for citizenship classes, but you're right. People want to be invested and connected to the process, and they want to know what's going on. So they do want to be able to do that in English. You're absolutely right.
How long is it taking for people to be able to take classes because there's not enough that's available given the need?
Well, because of the coalition model, we really have programs talking to each other so that
that's
there
great.
can be referrals.
Good.
We also have new people coming to the county, as you all know, all the time. So just finding out about services, we're trying to increase our outreach, particularly in the Asian communities where we're not serving as many people as we think we could be. So
that's because they're all brilliant and they
Well-
come, don't we understand? With all these
Don,
stereotypes. No, I
stereotypes.
know. But it's really important. When we look at the
Right.
diversity in this community,
Yeah.
we've got over 200 countries.
And
here. We've got
our
lots and
data
lots.
shows we serve 125 countries,
Right.
122 countries. So
Languages.
yeah, languages. So we're trying to increase awareness. One of the ways we do
I
this,
wanted to
we
talk
do
to you about the big spelling bee.
Yeah.
What's going on? We have about a minute left.
Fourth annual Adult Spelling Bee for English
Good.
Literacy, April 5th.
Okay.
Tickets on sale at our website, MCAEL.org. And this is a moment to celebrate the work that our coalition partners do and to raise money and awareness about that. And
You've got a great MC, I understand.
Kathleen Matthews is going to join us as MC.
Fantastic.
We have some celebrity judges, Michael Bobbitt from Adventure Theater, and we have Marilyn Balcom from the Gaithersburg Germantown Chamber of Commerce, Judd Ashman, Mayor of Gaithersburg, and Shebra Evans from the Montgomery County Public Schools School Board. So it's
Good.
an all-around effort. It's a really fun evening.
I'll just say I've been. It's a lot of fun, and
Thank
it's
you,
also
Scott.
very humbling.
Yes,
in
it is
terms of when
humbling,
you
yes.
realize how much you do not know
Right.
about spelling, and
Spelling,
it brings
yeah.
back when I got out in my 4th grade spelling bee.
That's great. That's the last word. Spell.
Thank
spell,
you.
spell, and make sure you spell MCAEL. MCAEL.
A-E-L.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Kathy.
Don.
We'll be right back after these messages. And we're back, Alysoun. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's good
So,
to be back.
Board of Elections. What attention on boards of elections and the whole election process in the aftermath of this election cycle. What do we believe, Alysoun?
The spotlight was really on us. It was, we were very focused on the security of the voting process, very focused on making sure to alleviate voters' worries about that. Of course, we went to paper ballots for this last election, and that really alleviated a lot of voters' worries about the integrity of the process.
And I say thank goodness you went to paper ballots. So I understand there were some issues for people getting back in the swing with paper ballots. People forgot about what paper ballots were all about.
Forgot or never knew. You've got so many voters who grow up with touchscreens or haven't experienced filling in an oval on the standardized test or something that,
Right.
that I filled in. So really there is a learning curve to train voters to understand that you don't circle your candidate's name.
Right.
There's that little oval and you have to actually fill that in order to say who you want to vote for.
Yeah, we don't do the Iowa standardized test so much anymore. We learned all of those from the
Right.
Iowa
It's all on
tests way
computer
back
now.
when.
Now I'm
Right.
nervous I did it wrong.
I remember
all
those
on computer.
Why can't we get those clunky machines? I love those clunky machines when we started off. Those were fun.
There
mind.
were some worries about those, so.
So security, I guess the question, because I want to talk a little bit about what you all do in the off year, because I know you're all busy, skeleton crew, I would imagine here. But what have you done to ensure those folks who are fully in with the conspiracy theories that it's all predetermined? You've cooked the books. This is all rigged election. What are we doing here in Montgomery County?
Well, the paper ballots do help. And the thing about paper ballots is that we've got the actual paper you can go back to and you can check. We also have digital images of all of those ballots that we're able to go back to and check. And we do analysis. We've been working on a lot of that analysis now to go back and see where any issues were and to make sure that we've got got a voter education campaign out there for voters, because it's very important in terms of how voters mark their ballot. But as far as the security goes, you know, we've got a logic and accuracy testing process on the equipment beforehand. We actually physically scan ballots through those machines before we send them out to the polls. It's all open for the public to come and watch, and some people do. And then afterwards, we have a comprehensive post-election audit. And so we've got open books for people to come and see our work and see how we go about counting
Sounds like
elections.
a really transparent process that you have. And are there any things that you think need to be done differently in the next year or two to help educate voters about how to properly fill out ballots, or just about the voting process in general?
Well, it is important for voters to know that they do need to fill in that bubble. It's also important for voters to actually check now. Go to our website, go to 777vote.org, check your voter registration and see do we have your name spelled right?
Right.
Did we read your handwriting right when you filled out a form? Or when you changed your address, did you actually update that information with us? Or do we still have you registered to vote at an old address? That is, whenever we have voters who end up having to cast a provisional ballot when they get to the polls on election day, that's usually why. Usually we had their old address. Update it with us so that you'll have a smoother experience on election day.
What percentage of Montgomery County registered voters voted in this? Do you have that information? Voted in this last election?
We were, I'm afraid to cite you the wrong number. People worry about turnout. People are concerned that turnout as a percentage, you know, was not as high as it was in, say, the 2008 election. But, you know, because our population keeps going up, the number of voters showing up at polling places keeps going up.
Oh, right.
And so we still had lines on election day in the morning. We still had a lot of forward planning, things to work with the schools on as we move forward.
So Alysoun, you hear a lot about, or we heard a lot about, you know, people being registered in more than one state. So how does that actually happen? And how can somebody check to see if, you know, I'm registered here in Montgomery County, but am I still registered in Miami where I live?
Or just came across from Virginia, would be more
Okay.
likely.
Right.
Yeah, so
Right.
let's say
About a minute left.
Let's say you moved to Virginia. How do I know that?
Right.
And just because, say, you did go to the Postal Service and you did change your address, how do I know that you're permanently moving to Virginia? I can't take away your right to vote, only because I hear a rumor, I see some information that, well, maybe you're not there. We do have processes where we keep track. We keep the Postal Service afloat by mailing out postcards, checking to see, have you moved? Can you let us know? Can you please update your registration?
So how does that work then? I mean, I guess, well, actually, let's go. We have 30 seconds. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing to prepare for 2018, real quick.
So to prepare for 2018, we are working with other states to get their information and to be able to continue to better update the information we do have about where voters are registered, and check to see if people have, if somebody's voted twice, then we do send that to the prosecutor's office. But we're working with the schools, we're working with community groups, we're making sure to educate voters and to plan for voters to have a good experience in 2018.
We need to turn to Scott, but before we do that, percentage of people, you'd say tiny, of people who might have voted twice, or folks who voted who shouldn't have voted?
It is very tiny, and you know what we tend to find is it's out of confusion, it's out of naivete.
Okay.
It's voters with cognitive memory issues. That's where we typically see it happen.
Well, we have no cognitive memory issues here.
What?
Alysoun. Exactly, because we're turning right now to Scott. Thank you so much for that. Welcome. Sorry to take a few seconds out of your time, because this is a very important topic. So tell us about the group homes. Tell us about what you're doing as the CEO.
Sure. So Jewish Foundation for Group Homes is a non-sectarian nonprofit.
No, it's JFGH.
Yes, we usually refer to it because it's a mouthful, right? But you know, it's a non-sectarian nonprofit that provides residential and social supports to individuals, adults actually only, with developmental disabilities such as Down syndrome, autism, cerebral palsy, and we've been providing services for more than 30 years. And here in Montgomery County, we actually provide services in 75 locations.
Now, we had talked about a couple things I just want to throw out and then open it up. One is that it's not just everybody in a group home. You're trying to get folks where they can thrive and do well as individuals in the community.
Exactly. So the goal is to help people enhance their independence and with dignity and choice and community inclusion. So that's going to mean different things to different people. So as a result, we offer several different models that may work for you, it may not work for Kathy, as well as continue looking at other models. So you can live in a group home, which most people necessarily don't understand what that is, but that's a home in a middle-class neighborhood with between 3 and typically 5 people. And the idea is it's a home that's just in the middle of the neighborhood and it's no different than any other home. You can have your own apartment where we can go ahead and provide drop-in support. The group homes are 24/7 support. And we specifically use the word support, not care, because it's about supporting people towards their independence. And then we also serve people in many locations in their family homes. Their families are still very involved. They would like to live with their families. The families would like to live with them, but they need still some additional support.
Sure.
So,
What's the biggest challenge that you're finding right now as our population shifts in ages, or in the 2017 era? Are there challenges that are different for the organization
yes,
now?
there definitely are. So, when we were started, there wasn't necessarily the belief or the statistics that showed that some individuals with specific disabilities would live longer than their family members. And now it's not now happening, which is a great thing in terms of, we're increasing lifespan. At the same time, it is opening, just as you said, a lot of things that we've never faced with as a society. So as people have more healthcare issues, as they're aging, the homes that we have, which are on average 50 years old, aren't sufficient. Like a lot of homes in Montgomery County, they're split level homes typically that can't be made accessible. And whether you have a disability or you're not, that's a challenge for people moving forward. As people have more medical needs, it's not clear of how in Montgomery County and frankly in the whole country do we best provide services, because it didn't necessarily exist before, right? So we're at a place where it's brought up all of these challenges, or a better way to probably say opportunities, of how do we address things that we didn't have 20, 30 years ago.
If we have such strong medical institutions around here, does that tend to attract people to our communities who maybe need a greater level of medical care?
So that's a great
caregiver
question.
support
It's
issues?
frankly what attracted me, to move here, and as well as also, Montgomery County Public Schools.
Right.
In terms of, as a community, we can always do better. There's never enough based on the need, but this is one of the best places in the country for services for individuals with disabilities. And we continue to see how progressive we can be, and looking at new models and what people need, as society changes.
What's your challenge that you see that what you need to be focused on over these next several months?
I think that, just going to housing, for example, is that our community doesn't actually have the housing stock available that's accessible for people to live, okay? Whether, again, you have a developmental disability, it's your father, it's your sister, we don't have that. And a lot of homes, they cannot be made accessible. So
we
have
need
to
more.
figure
We
that
need to go back to Ramblers.
Or there's actually some developments that are
Right.
being built that are townhouses that have elevators.
Right.
It's a way to help people.
Right.
And we need to continue to have more community integration where it's not about individuals with disabilities just living by themselves. We've moved people out of homes, group homes, into apartments where upstairs is a senior, downstairs is a young professional, there's a teacher, there's someone divorced, there's
A community.
It's just a community, and you're part of the community.
30
and
seconds left.
that's what we want.
It's going to get more profound because of I always quote this, 1946 to 1964, the baby boom, the beginning of the baby boomers are in my group. So it is going to be more troublesome. What do you see as, how do we resolve that?
5 seconds.
We've created an aging task force where we're following individuals that we currently support over time, as well as looking at strategically.
Well, strategically, that's a great way to end.
Yeah.
Because you all are working so strategically in each of your areas. So I want to thank you for joining me, and I want to thank all of you in the viewing audience for joining us for this week's edition of Montgomery Week in Review. I'm Don Mooers, inviting you to join us here next week at this very same time.